So I'm going to show you how to do a transfer from a drawing that you've done onto another piece of paper. Now, there's a couple ways you could do it. You could use a lightboard. You could put your new paper on top of your old paper, and you could do a transfer with a lightboard. If you don't have a lightboard, a window works too. The only thing with a window is your arms tend to get a little tired, so you have to kind of work quickly. The other way you can do it is what's called a graphite transfer. So I am going to start by taking my initial sketch, and I am going to flip it over. Now, if you notice, I actually retraced my lines and I made them darker, and you can kind of see them through. Now, if this is the case, then you could literally retrace your lines with some really thick, dark grooves. Now, if you can't see yours, what you could do is you could fill the whole back with graphite. So I'll show you both. All right. Now, before I begin with this, I'm going to put a scrap piece of paper underneath because it does have a tendency to transfer underneath, and it will make it a little easier for me to see my sketch. Now, like I said, this process can work if you just follow your lines and you make nice thick lines. So I'm going to do this over here on this side of the face. You have to make sure that you're using really dark lines and that you go over everything. So if your lines are not easy to see, or maybe you had a lot of erasures and it was really confusing, this method probably won't work for you. So just going to go over all of my lines really fast on this side of the face. And this is actually it's actually the right side of the face. Sorry, the left side of the face, because when I flip it, it'll be on the opposite side. So we know when we flip it, we can compare. So you can see that this is a little bit of a lengthy process of retracing all of your lines and making sure you get them nice and dark. And I'm really pushing down. Plus, I've got a 6B pencil, or sorry, a 2B pencil. So it's already a little darker than your standard number 2 pencil. And the other thing is to make sure that you've got everything. So, like I said, this is the this is going to be the left side of the face when I flip it over. One thing you'll notice when you do this is that it will transfer a little bit. You can see it already working, but we'll get a better transfer when we do the correct way. I think I missed a line. No, I didn't miss a line, but I am going to darken this a little bit. Okay. Now, on the other side, I'm going to show you the other method, which is where you basically just fill it in. You could do either. Like I said, if you can't tell where your lines are, even when you darken it, you can do this one instead. This one's fairly quick, but it's a lot messier. So you'll have to put something behind this or in a manila folder or something so that it doesn't get all over all of your other art projects. Now I can see where my lines are still, so I'm actually going to concentrate on just those areas. But you could fill in that whole space so you're, not missing anything. If you have a particularly large sketch, it may not be a good idea to do this. They also have graphite transfer paper that you can put underneath it. That does the same thing. And I'm kind of holding my pencil to the side too, so that I'm getting nice wide lines rather than using thinner lines. You definitely can't do this with a mechanical pencil. So if you have a mechanical pencil, switch to a regular pencil with graphite and wood. All right, so there you have it. You can even see on this piece of paper, the scrap piece of paper, how it left a line behind. All right, so now what I can do is I can take my final piece and I can position it. Now, remember your rule of thirds. Don't put it directly in the center. That's a boring composition. We want a dynamic composition. So you can put your piece like maybe more towards the top, more towards the bottom. One thing I will warn you about is, if you put your piece too high up and you can only see in your photograph to here, then you're going to have to do something about this extra piece down here. And no, cropping is not something you can do. You're not going to be cutting this paper smaller. So you can place it anywhere you want. I like mine to be a little bit more below center. And I kind of like the idea of having this side over. Now, remember to look at that original photograph and check and make sure. I'm going to check and make sure I can do this. And you can see, I can see this whole side of my face, and then the shoulder goes over quite a bit. So I have a lot more information that I can include on this side. So I like this placement. Now, before you're tracing it, a nice thing to kind of get in the habit of doing is to make sure you kind of tape it down so that it doesn't wiggle while you are doing it. So I'm going to grab a piece of tape, and I am actually going to not only tape the two pieces of paper together, as you can see here, I'm also going to tape it down to the table so that it doesn't move. Now, you can see where the graphite is behind, and then you can see that it's not as visible there. Now, I actually like to switch to a pen in this step, and I like to switch to a pen so I can see where I drew. So I'm going to take my pen, and I want to push down fairly heavy and put a lot of pressure in there. So I'm going to start with this eyebrow, and then I'm going to do this eyebrow over here, and then show you the difference. So both work really well. You can see that this one's a little darker than this one over here. So I'm just going to keep going. Now, if I missed any spots on this side when I was drawing over it really quickly, it's going to be pretty obvious in this example. Do not use a Sharpie marker when you're doing this. Use a ballpoint pen. Don't even use like one of those gel pens. Ballpoint. Standard pen is best with standard ink. My pen's dying. Should have got a pen that wasn't dying. Even a dead pen will work. It's just you won't be able to see your lines very well where you've drawn already. So this transfer technique is something that is just another way to transfer your drawings from one spot to another. So you can get rid of those pesky erasure marks. And I'm almost done here. Got half the face drawn. Moving into the part where I started with graphite shading. Oops. One other downside to using this method where I do, like, I shade the whole back is all of your boo-boos that you make are still going to be visible. So you want to actually trace a little more carefully if you use the technique where you fill the whole back in. So, almost finished here. You will see that you can still see all of the lines, even though my pen isn't working very well. Alrighty. Do a really quick check. Make sure I got everything. Looks like it's all there. Now the last thing I'm going to do is pull it up, and then we'll look at how they compare. So remember that this part right here was this side. Notice how much lighter it is on this side versus this other side here, where you can see it's much darker because I was able to put the pressure just on the spot where I was going to trace. So, you know, there's upsides and downsides to both of these techniques, but this is graphite transfer. So you can do this with any drawing as long as you are using a graphite pencil. You can even do it with charcoal. It works with charcoal. There's a few other things too that will work really well. Pastel, chalk. But here you go. That's how you do it. Thank you for watching.